Whether it's 2 a.m. and you're lying in bed unable to sleep, or you're simply on your way to work during your morning commute, an existential crisis can strike at any time, ranging from the simple passing thought of, hey, I wonder if we're alone in this universe, to the soul-shattering fear of realizing that your entire life could simply be a bunch of ones and zeros on a computer located in a time or space you can't even comprehend, and it can be turned off without any notice. And you and everything you know, everyone you've ever loved, will vanish without a trace, and you won't even realize it. All right, now that I got your attention, in today's video, we'll be covering Tier 1 of the Existential Crisis and Dread Iceberg. We'll be exploring topics that can cause existential crises and ideas that can help keep your feet on the ground when you experience one. Timestamps will be provided in the description and comments below, so you can jump to a topic that piques your interest. Without further ado, let's get into it. The meaning of life. This is probably the first existential crisis anyone experiences, and it's the foundation for this iceberg. A lot of the ideas on here come back to it in one way or another. Why are we here? What's the point of it all? These questions often pop up during times of stress and when we feel lost with no direction. While there's no definitive answer to this question, it's believed by many that the meaning of life is something we create. It's not a predetermined situation or outcome. It's a journey that you're in control of, and it involves activities like spending time with the ones you love the most, or maybe your cup of tea is to try and make the most amount of money possible while climbing the career ladder. At the end of the day, life isn't an absurd, one-way trip that only lasts for so long. We might as well do everything in our power to enjoy it while we can. Death. Death is an existential crisis woven within the fabric of our DNA. It's an inevitable point that every living creature will have to cross at some time. From the moment you're born, you spend every waking and non-waking second fighting this unwinnable war against an unbeatable opponent. While some believe this is the final step in this journey we call life, there are others who look at death as just the next step in existence. Many cultures will turn to religious ideologies to help cope with the idea of death. If you live a good life, you'll be rewarded with an eternal existence of pure bliss. Hey, you may even be rewarded by being reincarnated into someone of royalty. Others will fully embrace the idea that death is just a part of life. There's nothing known after it. And accepting the fact that this is the only life we have, we should just focus on living it to our fullest potential. Aging is the name of the battle we're all fighting in the war against death. We experience it every day, and it starts off as a small snowball rolling down a mountain gathering snow. You might notice one morning you wake up with a kink in your back. You're listening to the TV a little bit louder than you did in the past. You may even notice a few gray hairs start showing up on your head. You may even buy one of those pill organizers for all the meds you're now taking. We take a look at that small snowball, and now it seems to have gathered enough to be the size of a boulder, and there's no sign of it slowing down. You get a phone call saying one of your parents has just passed away. It's no wonder immortality and searching for the fountain of youth is a widespread concept. Maybe there'll come a day where scientists are able to slow down or even halt our telomeres from being damaged. But until then, we will all have to turn and face that snowball eventually. I'm going to combine determinism and free will since they're two sides of the same coin. What if every event, every action, every outcome for you and everything else in this universe has been set in stone since the beginning of time? Determinism is essentially the idea that there is no free will and nothing is truly random. Your actions are all the result of prior events. Think about the classic example of billiards moving around a pool table. If you knew the exact conditions at play, like the power used to hit the cue ball, the angle of attack, the temperature and humidity of the air, even the drag the balls create on the table, you would be able to accurately predict the outcome. This can be freeing for some people, letting them focus on things that they can influence, like their reaction to events. But for others, it can bring upon a crippling sense of existential dread. Your life is a script written in permanent marker, and there's nothing you can do to change it. But free will, on the other hand, that's the idea that you and everyone else are able to make your own choices without any external constraints. Like determinism, it can be both liberating and daunting at the same time. You're free to write your own story, and you're not stuck in a predetermined script, but at the same time, you now have to face all of the uncertainty that free will brings with it. If you get two people from both sides to talk about this topic, they could spend hours going at it back and forth, and at the end, you still wouldn't know for sure which one is true. Besides being used as the ultimate one-upper as a kid, infinity is an idea that absolutely boggles the human mind, oftentimes crippling us with how immense, boundless, and never-ending the idea is. Yeah, it's just a sideways 8 on a piece of paper, but that sideways 8 contains the impossible. Infinity is oftentimes accompanied by trying to understand our universe. If we truly live in a universe that's infinite, then that means there's an infinite amount of planets and stars out there. And since we know of one planet that hosts intelligent life, we can extrapolate that one across all of infinity and come to the conclusion that there's an infinite amount of planets that host intelligent life. But why stop there? If infinity truly means infinity, then that means there's an infinite amount of Earths with an infinite amount of views somewhere out there in the infinite universe. I'm going to combine nothingness and emptiness together. They may seem like the same, but they're slightly different in the feelings. Nothingness is one that gets me to my core. With infinity, we're at least able to attempt to wrap our mind around the idea of something that's never ending. But with nothingness, it's different, because as soon as you start to feel like you got it, you don't, because that's no longer nothing. That's something. Anesthesia is probably the closest humans will ever get to experiencing nothingness. Just a complete void that appears instantaneous, because nothing also means time doesn't exist. Unlike nothingness, emptiness to me brings more of a hopelessness feeling than a sense of dread. With nothingness, that space is just devoid of everything because nothing should be there. But with emptiness, that space once had something. Maybe it's a once bustling mall that now sits empty and abandoned. A coral reef where hundreds of different species of fish once called home. But due to that recent oil spill, it now sits vacant of all life. Maybe it's a person who's become a hollow shell of who they once were after hearing some grave news. Some religions, like Buddhism, see emptiness as a more liberating realization of life, but I'm just going to side with the more pessimistic side of things on this one. Hey, you might be staving off boredom by watching this video, and if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. But I think it's weird that boredom exists this day and age. It seems like everything in this hyper-stimulated life is designed to cure boredom, yet here we are, more bored than ever. I think that's because we're trying to solve an ancient primal desire with superficial nonsense. I believe it's on this iceberg because boredom can amplify existential dread by making real life feel repetitive and purposeless. It can be a tough hole to climb out of as well, and if you don't do anything about it, you'll just fall deeper and deeper into that hole. Get out there and try new things. Try something that stimulates on a deeper level than just itching that scratch. Find something worthwhile and beneficial to others and get after it. Nostalgia is more than just something game companies are using against us to increase their sales numbers. It's a longing, almost blissfully ignorant, idealized love for the past. And it doesn't take much for something to trigger us and go on a nostalgic trip down memory lane. Maybe it's a song you jammed out to in the car with your friends growing up and it takes you back to those fun road trips you guys once had. a video game you played as a kid that takes you back to when times were simpler and easier? How it fits into this iceberg about existential crises is the fact that I think no matter how hard you try, you'll never get to experience those feelings the same way again. You can never step foot into the same river twice, so let's not drown in the rushing floods of nostalgia as an escape from the world today. The human condition. As far as we know, this is a uniquely human condition, hence the name. But to put it broadly, it's essentially, what does it mean to be human? Why are we the way we are? We have this incredible ability to ponder about the infinite wonders of the universe, yet we're still bound by the laws of physics. We have near limitless knowledge and power at the palm of our hands, yet we're limited by what our brains can process. We strive to create meaning in a seemingly meaningless world. Despite understanding our limitations of existence, we still get out of bed in the morning and drink that cup of coffee. The act of being is a tough one to wrap my mind around. It's similar to the human condition, but extends to a deeper level. Why do I exist? What even am I? Am I really just a lump of 7-pound gray matter controlling a meat suit? I think, therefore I am, but how am I even able to have that thought in my head in the first place? What are thoughts? What is consciousness? It's enough to drive someone mad, and people often turn towards other ideas in this iceberg to get a grasp of reality. These are loaded topics that I won't fully be able to cover. I believe in this case, God and theism can be a means of both a stabilizing force in our reality, while also at the same time bring your idea of existence to a screeching halt. Whether it's one God or multiple, the idea of an eternal, omniscient being can help you make sense of this nonsensical life we seem to be a part of. The good you do in this life will be rewarded in the afterlife. We were created with a purpose. We're not some accidental chemistry experiment that randomly occurred billions of years ago. While, on the other side of things, the idea of God existing can bring upon an immense amount of struggle. If there is a God, why is there so much hurt in this world that he supposedly created? We may never know why things are the way they are, but at the end of the day, I believe if you are a believer and it keeps you sane, then I'm all for it. I'm sure we've all stood outside on a clear night and gazed out upon the vast sea of stars. You could spend all night counting each speck of light and not reach the end. With how incomprehensibly huge and ancient our universe is, we can't be alone, right? This simple question has baffled countless amounts of astrophysicists, philosophers, as well as the average Joe since the beginning of time. Well, if the answer to that question is we are not alone, then that might cause you to spiral a bit contemplating what or who is out there. Are they friendly or violent? Do they also watch trashy reality TV like us? Are they also wondering if they're alone or not? With the vastness of the universe, we may never know the answer to this question, but I think it's still great to sit and wonder what science fiction exists out in this infinite universe. We can go many different ways when it comes to technology and this iceberg. Do you feel a sense of overwhelming dread when you think about AI overthrowing humanity? Do you find comfort in the idea that humans will join hand in hand with technology one day, allowing us to conquer the stars? What about the mind-boggling, wizard-like complexity of a microchip? How is it even possible that we're able to take tiny bits of sand and refine them down to something that's so small you have to measure it in nanometers, and then send electrical currents through them, and at the end of the day, this tiny thing makes quite literally everything you see possible? Okay, that's a terrible description of a microchip and an even worse pun, but it blows my mind that they exist because it's literal magic. And that doesn't even include the fact that we're on our way to quantum computing. Okay, never mind. Technology falls squarely in the existential dread part of the iceberg. Sonder. The sudden realization that everyone around you has a life of their own. Main character syndrome is a phrase used quite often in today's social media society, but Sonder is more than just realizing everyone has their own life. I find it both humbling and inspiring, and it's used as a reminder that struggles and joys are universal. It might spark some existential dread when you realize how vast human existence is and that every single one of them will face the same end as you. But at the end of the day, I like to think of Sonder as empathy on steroids. Be kind to one and another. We're all going through this insane experience we call life together. Hey, you made it to the end. Thank you so much for watching. By the time this is posted, I'll be working on tier 2 of the Iceberg. So if you're interested in that, please subscribe to the channel and you'll be alerted when it's posted. I'll make sure the link for the Iceberg is in the description. Shout out to Colander of Peril. That is a 10 out of 10 name for sure. On Reddit, thanks for the chart, man. Appreciate it. Please let me know down in the comments how you're doing in life. Hope everything's going well, but if not, I'll be here for you. Thanks and have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.